School of our Divine Infinite Being, Central Doctrine. Gravity and consciousness, a new exciting field in the world of modern physics. We will return to the multiverse interpretation after a quick prelude into the world of quantum gravity and consciousness. We are fully committed to the understanding that gravity and consciousness are equal and the same thing. This one important agreement with the most groundbreaking of quantum sciences is a lamppost along the way to the full discovery of the Theurgic method of experience.
But I think it is a serious issue to wonder about the other Platonic absolutes of, say, beauty and morality. Roger Penrose. The Road to Reality, a complete guide to the laws of the universe.
Roger Penrose, the Nobel Prize-winning Platonic physicist and one of the most respected theorists alive, boldly opened a new field of research predicated on the idea that quantum gravity, collapsing the wave function, was consciousness. Penrose was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2020 for his work on the equations of singularities and black holes. He was able to transform what was almost a workaround, evidencing the behavior of a singularity, into one smooth equation, leading to incredible new science in discovering what singularities and black holes are composed of. In Penrose's theories, what we experience as mind is specific to gravity's influence on the brain, and thereby objective quantum gravitational collapse in the universe is what causes consciousness. This caused a stir in the physics communities, and when he was asked if the sun held consciousness, he explained that it must, if his models are proven to be correct. Thus began a new era of investigation into the relationship of gravity with consciousness, one that is ongoing through his work with several colleagues in the field. This field is still extremely proto-developed in the industry, and although our school focuses on the more widely accepted Copenhagen and many worlds interpretations, Penrose's inclusion of quantum gravity and consciousness cannot be overlooked for us.
Thus, we can use the term conscious force for gravitational force without any hassle. Conscious force is gravitational force. This force is a synonym for gravitational force, works just like it does on all matter of entities, irrespective of their nature or position in space, both in macro or micro worlds. Thus, I would like to conclude, conscious matter applies conscious force, the unidentified fifth force to resolve quantum gravity. Chris Patty, physicist, Physics Foundations.
As Jung and Pauli passionately pursued the predicate that the laws of physics and psychology must mirror and correlate with each other, there is a very practical application of this idea of gravity and consciousness being co-equal in everyday life. From a psychological point of view, we say the gravity of a situation gives its importance. Those who make great effort towards the accomplishment of any concrete idea over time require a concentrated mindset, or as Patty put it, conscious force, connecting ideas together, accumulating data until the gravity of the exercise evidences new information. Let's take that of an entrepreneur. There is the gathering of facts, influencers, team members, funding and marketplace savvy. There is planning, analysis, and then replanning, and this continues to add more and more to the gravity of the business model. There is the movement through time that continues to add weight to the plans fostered, and when properly directed become much more stable. Just as gravity is the stabilizing force holding our solar system together, conscious force brings stability to ideas over time.
Einstein realized that there was no way this man could tell whether he was sitting in a gravitational field or being accelerated. Because of this, these two situations were equal. By extension, Einstein concluded that gravity and acceleration are the same thing. Nova.
As Einstein exclaimed, gravity and acceleration are the exact same principle in physics. As gravity is added to the business model, it begins to accelerate. The more gravity, the more acceleration. A perfect example is Jeff Bezos, who started Amazon alone, dealing with the fledgling new enterprise, barely holding it together, unstable and not weighing enough. Then, through a tremendous effort of conscious force over time, he became the richest man in the world, with Amazon locations all over the planet, As his business grew in gravity and resources, he continued accelerating until it was as large as any online retailer has ever been. Truly, the Amazon universe is filled with the gravity of his efforts, extended through the gravity of the efforts of his company. Amazon now services millions of people a day and has created an orbit in the conscious awareness of most of the known world.
According to Einstein, space and time together can be thought of as a four-dimensional space, or space-time, and the curvature of this space-time is what we perceive as gravity. Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time.
Timothy Desmond equated the mind of nature with the curvature of space-time and suggested that what we experience as the external world is the holographic mind of God, a sentiment echoed in the Kabbalion by William Walker Atkinson. The now famous power of attraction, first introduced by Atkinson, makes much more sense, although overrun by pop culture, when you add gravity to the model. There are things you want to manifest in your life, and those things exist in space-time. Gravity is the curving of space-time and the attraction of objects at a distance. Although you have to act and not just think, as Patty puts it, gravitational force is conscious force. Everything begins with a clear picture of what you want in your mind. Gaining this clarity is gaining gravity, and gaining gravity is gaining acceleration. Manifesting in Theurgy is a condition of gravitational attraction through conscious effort. The volitional will, this conscious effort, holds things fast before the mind, as explained by James, adding gravity and thereby accelerating towards an outcome. The ability to use the mind as a microcosm in the space-time of the macrocosmic mind of nature is the secret key to manifestation, an idea we get into more later.
Gravitational lensing occurs when the gravitational field of a massive object distorts the path of light from a distant source. The curvature of space-time around the massive object bends the light rays, acting like a lens. Kip S. Thorne. Black holes and time warps. Einstein's outrageous legacy. The magician must learn to focus and direct his or her willpower and imagination to harness the subtle forces of the universe, represented by the astral light, and to bring about transformation and change. The object of the ceremonial magician is to create a strain on the astral light, in which it is manipulated by the trained will. The true aim of ritual magic is to establish contact with the higher spiritual entities by creating a resonance with the divine forces through the use of symbolic language and actions. Israel Regardie, The Tree of Life.
It is the gravity of consciousness that bends the astral light and attracts to it the eternal archetypes and forms into one's presence. Just as thoughts of any kind attract ideas, experiences, people, vocation, purpose, and logic itself into forms as potentialities predetermined for the manifestation of material conditions in life. Just as the sun's gravity curves space-time around the orbiting planetary bodies, the Theurgists create their own cosmos whirling around them, drawn from the gravity of their ambitions, accomplishments, and life experiences. And, as Einstein explained, gravity and acceleration are the same force. The more gravity you exert to curve space-time, the more you experience the acceleration and actualization of your life purpose, as this increase in gravity draws the world that revolves around your center into the orbit of direct relationship. For example, by reading the Central Doctrine, you will learn more and more, adding to the gravity of your understanding. If you were to read it several times, you would become much more clear, and the gravity of your activities will accelerate your experience with the material further. Just like the macro world, where the gravitational field of massive objects lends and curve the surrounding light into orbit, the Theurgist lenses the astral imaginal being into the space-time of direct experience. Although unlike the magician, as in the statements by Regardie above, the Theurgist's gravitational will does not manipulate, but is an act of divine love, invoking the eternal archetypes and forms, these gods of the higher regions, into direct communion and unity through ritual praxis. It is the gravitational force of consciousness that accelerates this through the development of a trained will and a concentrated mind. The gods are of a higher resonance, and by use of symbols, sonorous invocations, and purposeful ritual acts, These divine forces manifest their presence to the theurgist through an act somewhat akin to gravitational force, an ecstatic divine attraction, drawing them into harmony and being with the inner light of the soul. As Henry Stapp says of quantum mechanics, in order to adequately connect the mathematically described state of a physical system to human experience, there must be an abrupt intervention in the otherwise smoothly evolving mathematically described state of the system. This is the collapse of the wave function, and this intervention, as he and Pauli have stated, is a conscious observer. Orthodox quantum mechanics is not able to account for gravity, as we have explained. Instead, they hold that this mysterious intervention must exist and simply relate it to consciousness. And as explained by Jung, the psyche is the world's pivot. Not only is it the one great condition for the existence of a world at all, it is an intervention into the existing natural order. This intervention that Pauli, Jung, and Stapp relate to consciousness in the world of physics, as our brightest minds are discovering, is quantum gravity. Although the debate rages on as to what consciousness actually is, we will give you reasons to believe what we teach. Gravity and consciousness are equal. This will become much more clear when we get to the work of Timothy Desmond below.
The Schrödinger-Newton equation, sometimes referred to as the Newton-Schrödinger or Schrödinger-Poisson equation, is a nonlinear modification of the Schrödinger equation with a Newtonian gravitational potential, where the gravitational potential emerges from the treatment of the wave function as a mass density including a term that represents interaction of a particle with its own gravitational field. Wikipedia.
The Schrödinger-Newton equation, first published by physicists Remo Ruffini and Silvano Bonazzola in 1969. In this equation, gravity acts on the macro and micro world the same, meaning that the quantum wave function and classical gravitational force in the macro world were the same force all the way from the largest galactic systems through to the smallest quantum particles. This framework was utilized by Penrose in the quantum gravity and consciousness model he has proposed, and this equation remains central cutting-edge research on gravity's relationship to the quantum. There have been many models that have used the Schrödinger-Newton equation as their basis for the way gravity behaves in both macro and micro worlds. Drawing us back to a moment to the previous section where we discussed Pauli's ideas that the archetypes manifest through the renormalization process, gravity or consciousness would have these forms in potential in the micro world. Cloud of potential at every point in space-time from the point of the observer, and then lens and solidify into space-time classical world. Manifestations moving into the macro world, although in both worlds they are the same, being shapes of the infinite nature which lends to Jung's ideas that archetypes are only partially manifest in our field of awareness, but rooted in an infinite and unknowable domain. String theory, an elegant and exciting new field of physics, and one you have been learning about in the central doctrine, is a model that fits both quantum mechanics and quantum gravity, but it has one disadvantage over the Schrödinger-Newton equation in practical applications. In particle physics, they have ways of measuring the properties of the quantum world through technology such as the CERN Large Hadron Collider. This technology is over 16 miles in one big loop, giving the proportion needed to collide particles and measure them in the process. Brian Greene explains if we were to build a collider that could hold enough energy to evidence a string, proposed to be the fundamental quantum property in string theory physics, it would have to be large enough to surround the entire Milky Way galaxy. The Schrödinger-Newton equation and the work being done on quantum gravity may be a way for us to account for gravity as consciousness in our current age. Throughout the rest of our doctrine, we will give you reason to join us in this grand revelation. Gravity is consciousness. You will see why this makes perfect sense when we get to Timothy Desmond's equation of psyche equals singularity below.
We should actually dissolve the line of differentiation between conscious and not conscious, because there is no such line for gravitational force to pertain, by nature. All matter should be considered conscious, whether it belongs to the macro world or micro world, because there is no such distinction by nature upon matter. Chris Patty, physicist, Physics Foundations.
Bringing this full circle back to string theory, let's explore the holographic principle, originating with Gerald 't Hooft and Leonard Suskind's work on black hole physics and the cosmic horizon. We will get much more into these ideas in the following chapters, but I want to make clear here the principles pertaining to consciousness and gravity. The holographic principle explains that all information within a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary, implying that the universe itself is a hologram, what the Hindu philosophers called Maya. This theory implies that consciousness is encoded at the boundaries of a system, connected to the universe's underlying quantum gravity framework. Since the holographic principle is rooted in quantum gravity, this view posits that consciousness is part of a larger framework that includes the gravitational structure of the universe. The idea of consciousness as a holographic phenomenon relies on the parallels between the nature of information processing in the universe, as suggested by the holographic principle, and information processing in the human brain. Some researchers, like Karl Pribram in the 20th century, proposed that the human brain operates holographically. Pribram's analysis showed that memory and perception are distributed throughout the brain in a manner similar to how information is encoded holographically. If consciousness is fundamentally tied to information processing, then the holographic principle suggests that our subjective experiences, thoughts, feelings, and awareness are manifestations of the information encoded on the universe's boundary, the cosmic horizon, as we will continue to explore here in our central doctrine. Essentially, our conscious experiences are localized reflections of this cosmic hologram projecting in from the boundary of the cosmic horizon. The holographic principle relies heavily on the idea of entanglement, quantum connections between particles. With Penrose's theories involving quantum coherence in the brain, the holographic principle suggests that these quantum processes are connected to a deeper structure of space-time, which is influenced by gravity. This is the same idea from a different perspective that Jung and Pauli came to conclusion on, where the laws of physics, space-time, and the laws of psyche, when seen through the lens of quantum gravity, mirror and correlate with one another through the laws of entanglement. The holographic principle asserts that information is the most fundamental aspect of reality, with space-time and gravity emerging from the informational structure. This structure fits perfectly with dual aspect monism and the unus mundus of Jung and Pauli, with information being the ground state and space-time gravity being the emergent properties. In Hindu belief, information could be considered Brahman, and space-time gravity could be compared to Shakti Shiva or Shakti Vishnu. If consciousness is, in essence, an information processing phenomenon, it is inherently tied to the same mechanisms that give rise to gravity in the holographic universe. Consciousness has a unique relationship with space-time perception. Our experience of time, for instance, is often described as a flow, yet physics describes time as a dimension in a static space-time. The holographic principle indicates that our perception of space-time is a holographic projection from a more fundamental reality, implying a deeper connection between the nature of consciousness and the structure of the universe. The holographic principle implies that all information with a volume, including the brain, is encoded on a boundary, which means that consciousness is also encoded in a similar fashion. This means that conscious experiences exist as a boundary phenomenon, influenced by interactions within a holographic cosmos. The holographic principle leads to cosmopsychism, where the universe itself proposes a form of consciousness. In this view, individual consciousnesses are localized reflections of a universal mind, encoded holographically in the fabric of space-time. Roger Penrose, Henry Stapp, and a large number of philosophers, including Alfred North Whitehead and our own Timothy Desmond, subscribe to a cosmos that is conscious. In general philosophy, this is termed panpsychism, and there is a wide variety of different models such as panexperientialism, the view that conscious experience is fundamental and a universal medium present everywhere in the universe. Stapp prescribes to panexperientialism as well as Whitehead, although it was the genius of Penrose to first posit quantum gravity as the universal force of mind. Although these theories still have a lot more to be developed, for the theurgist it makes many a mystery clear as crystal. Gravity can be seen to a degree as the carrier of consciousness. Consciousness is the entangled dual aspect to matter in the Jung-Pauli conjecture, and as we will instruct you in following sections, gravity is equally balanced with matter throughout the cosmos. When we get to our discussion on the singularity in our Big Bang inside-out black hole universe and Todd's equation psyche equals singularity, we will bring this full circle. Shiva, Shakti, and the dynamics of Kundalini in the greater universe of Tantra and the practices of yoga.
The zero-energy universe hypothesis proposes that the total amount of energy in the universe is exactly zero. Its amount of positive energy, in the form of matter, is exactly cancelled out by its negative energy in the form of gravity. Wikipedia.
As we will explain further in our doctrine, gravity and matter balance each other out in the greater universe at exactly zero. Matter and gravity in the entire cosmos are co-equally existent. Everything from the quarks of an atom to you has mass, and everything that has mass has gravity. The gravitational force of the greater bodies in the universe warps space-time into spherical orbits, and in our third-dimensional view of the cosmos, we experience them as perfect spherical mandalas, such as the heliosphere of our solar system. The swirl of galaxies is a dynamic interplay of gravity, matter, and energy as they dance together in a beautiful, awe-inspiring confluence, like great wheels in the sky.
Gravity is not something material, it is a curvature of space-time. It is an immaterial concept representing the warping of the four-dimensional fabric of the universe. Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. Shiva is the great God, the God of all, the Almighty, the Omnipresent One, the Ever-Beneficent, the Ever-Merciful. He is without form, without quality, changeless, beyond time, space, and causation. Swami Vivekananda.
Mahatma Gandhi said of Shiva, he is known to have no material existence. He represents method, the technology of yoga, and given as the state of absolute awareness, the great omnipresent observer. His consort is the dynamic material energy of the universe, Shakti.
In his meditative stillness, Shiva embodies the principle of absolute consciousness. He is the supreme observer, the witness of all phenomena, who remains unperturbed amidst the ceaseless flow of cosmic events. David Frawley. Shiva, the Lord of Yoga. Shiva is the pure consciousness that illuminates all experiences. As the omnipresent observer, he witnesses the play of Maya, the illusion of the world, without being affected by it. His gaze penetrates through the veils of reality to reveal the underlying truth. Sri Ramana Maharshi. Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Shiva, the supreme yogi, is the unchanging observer who dwells in the heart of all beings. He perceives everything without attachment, for he is beyond the illusions of the world. His presence is the silent witness to the dance of life. Eknath Easwaran. Essence of the Upanishads, a key to Indian spirituality. Shakti, the consort of Shiva, dances in dynamic motion. She is the kinetic energy that brings forth all manifestation. Without Shakti, Shiva is but a passive witness, while without Shiva, Shakti would be directionless energy. Together, they symbolize the unity of stillness and movement, of form and the formless. Tantric philosophy.
In Shaivite Hinduism and Tantra, Shiva embodies the principle of absolute consciousness. Shakti, his consort, is the dynamic energy and the material existence of the cosmos they refer to as Maya, which is the holographic world of forms. Many mistake Maya as unreal, and although we will get much more into holographic string theory in following chapters, Maya is the material world, and not to be mistaken as mere illusion. This dynamic energy for the Shakti Hindus is the great mother of the cosmos, and Shiva, absolute consciousness, awakens due to her calling him from slumber to dance in the creation of existence. Shiva is the omnipresent observer, the Purusha Atman, the witness to the dynamic dance of Shakti, who arouses him from his perfect stillness to grand performance in the generative flow of creation. This co-equal weaving in the dance of Shiva and Shakti gives a deep teleology to the zero-energy universe where Shiva, or gravity, is perfectly balanced with Shakti, matter and energy. In their transcendent cosmic form, they perfectly weave through the interplay of their dynamic but perfectly balanced relationship. In the Mahanirvana Tantra, it is written, the Vindu is symbolically described as being like a grain of gram, chanaka, which under its encircling sheath contains a divided seed. This Parang Vindu is Prakriti Purusha, Shiva Shakti. The word parang stands for supreme, transcendental, or beyond, referring to the highest or most ultimate nature. The word Vindu or Bindu in Sanskrit refers to a point or dot, often symbolizing the origin of creation or the seed of the universe in tantric and yogic traditions. It is also associated with the idea of a drop, point, or nucleus of energy and consciousness. In many spiritual contexts, Bindu represents the point where the finite meets the infinite, connected to the third eye, or the space between the eyebrows in meditation practices, a concept that is central to the theurgic ritual practices of our school. We will teach further in this doctrine that this same point is the very apex of the singularity. This relationship between Shiva and Shakti can be compared to the relationship between infinite gravity and infinite density in a gravitational singularity. Just as infinite density is the cause of infinite gravity, Shakti is the causal force that activates Shiva.
Shiva without Shakti is Shava, a corpse. Kularnava Tantra.
Without the dynamic energy of Shakti, Shiva is inert, just as a body without life is merely a corpse. Shiva provides consciousness, the field upon which creation can unfold, but it is Shakti who animates this field, bringing forth the myriad forms of the universe. Shakti, on the other hand, is the creative power of the universe, the dynamic aspect that manifests all of creation. She is often described as the energy that not only animates, but also sustains the universe. Shakti is the force that makes everything move, vibrate, and exist. The relationship between Shiva and Shakti is one of mutual interdependence, where Shakti activates and Shiva stabilizes. Just as infinite density causes infinite gravity, Shakti causes Shiva's inert consciousness to manifest into the dynamic universe. This divine interplay is the essence of all creation, where both Shiva and Shakti are co-equal and co-eternal, yet their relationship is defined by the activation of potential into reality. This understanding is central to many tantric and yogic practices, where the union of Shiva and Shakti within the practitioner's own body is seen as the ultimate goal, leading to the realization of the non-dual nature of existence. As the Shiva Sutras state, Shakti is the power of consciousness, which is not different from the self. When one realizes this, one attains liberation. In this way, just as gravity and density in a singularity represent an inseparable duality, so too do Shiva and Shakti represent the inseparable and eternal dance of consciousness and energy, the foundation of all that is. Kundalini Tantra is the yogi science of union, rising through the 7 chakra centers of the body as Shiva uniting with the goddess Shakti, embodying her divine energies. This is done through the rise of the Kundalini energy, first coiled at the base of the spine, then through mantra and successive meditative practices. It rises coming to union at the crown of the head or the 1,000-petaled lotus, the crown chakra, where Shiva and Shakti are actualized in the ecstatic union of Samadhi. In Kundalini Tantra, one embodies the knower. Shiva, the invoked God, becomes our awareness. Shakti becomes the embodied soul of creation, unifying into an equally balanced force of the masculine and feminine within the yogi, just as gravity and matter energy do in the greater cosmos. Shiva and Shakti, many times in the form of Parvati or material existence, are the key transcendent god-goddess forms in the liberating practices of Tantra Kundalini, called by our teacher, the brilliant scholar Gregory Shaw, Theurgy of the East.
Indian philosophy is namely the interpretation given to the precise condition of the non-ego which affects our personal psychology, however independent from us it remains. It sees the aim of human development as bringing about an approach to and connection between the specific nature of the non-ego and the conscious ego. Tantra Yoga then gives a representation of the condition and the developmental phases of this impersonality, as it itself in its own way produces the light of a higher suprapersonal consciousness. The psychology of Tantric Yoga, what I have hitherto called mandala psychology. Carl Jung, the psychology of Kundalini Yoga. The mandala is a symbol of wholeness, completion, and perfection. It is the geometrical projection of the highest state of mind, the state of enlightenment and absolute freedom. In the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the mandala is used as a meditative tool, that embodies the universe and the path to personal transformation. In tantric practices, the mandala serves as a map of the spiritual journey and the inner landscape of the psyche. Carl Jung, Psychology and Religion, West and East. The mandala is a schematized representation of this wholeness, of the divinity incarnate in man. In the tantric tradition, the mandala serves to unify and balance the conflicting aspects of the psyche. Carl Jung, The Secret of the Golden Flower. In tantric yoga, the mandala plays an important role as the yantra, a mystical diagram used for meditation. The mandala, as a visual representation of the universe, serves to focus the mind and to evoke a sense of wholeness and harmony within the self. In this way, the tantric mandala and the psychological mandala both function as symbolic aids for the integration of the personality. Carl Jung, Psychology and Alchemy.
Tantra Kundalini, integrated with Raja Yoga, the science of concentration, works both as a perfect practice to the development of the mandala of wholeness and a preparation for Theurgic ritual praxis. One of the greatest benefits of Kundalini meditation is that it is something easily taught to the young, although the more physical and erotic aspects of this tantric practice is something we save for adult practitioners, teaching children that they have centers of embodiment that balance the psychodynamic aspects of self-consciousness, draw in a system of wholeness that can be learned in the earlier years of life. For the theurgist, in preparation for the dynamics of ritual, the centrality and empowerment of the different states of the chakra centers greatly increase one's awareness of the spherical star vehicle, the okema. This is the spherical boundary of the self that we explain in full detail further in this work. Tantra Kundalini creates an interplay between the conscious awareness of the practitioner and the spherical boundary of the self, flowing energy in and out of the center of awareness, giving resonance to the core principles of embodiment, empowering the imaginal being, strengthening, conditioning, and preparing it for the theurgic experience. We give instructions on our practices of Raja Kundalini on our website, so we will not get into too many details here. Gregory Shaw, as you can well see from the numerous quotations of his work, is by far one of the most important scholars we reference in our central doctrine. He has taken the similarities and qualities of Tantra and Theurgy as a major academic study. We are in absolute concert with his discoveries, and if you want to embark on a journey outside our work into the realm of Theurgy and Tantra, we highly recommend his books. I will now quote extensively from his published paper, Platonic Tantra, Theurgists of Late Antiquity, one of my favorite treatises on the subject. There are an abundant number of similarities between Theurgy and Tantra, but perhaps the most revealing and the one most unlike the verticalist traditions of Advaita Vedanta and dualist forms of Platonism is that the physical senses are no longer obstacles to the divine, but portals by which the divine enters our world and through which the soul becomes the vehicle of an incarnating God.
In the outward turn to the finite and material realm, the tantric initiate participates in the universal vibration or pulse of the Absolute. This, I believe, is equivalent to the Lamlashian soul bestowing power, life, and the activity of wholes to the finite parts of the universe. Theurgy and Tantra trace the same path. In Tantra, it is characterized as spanda, the pulse of the infinite through the finite. In Theurgy, the great oneness is expressed through the diastolic and systolic rhythm of prohodos and epistrophe, the eternal procession and return of the One as orchestrated by the Demiurge. In both systems, the finite and atmerial is an expression of the infinite and invisible. The Theurgist and Tantric initiate both partake in this divine pulsation and share in its power. In Tantra, this power is manifest in supernormal abilities called siddhis, powers that were also evident among Theurgists. In both Theurgy and Tantra, the initiate enters into the body of the god through the performance of rituals. Through the chanting of mantras, in Tantra and divine names, in Theurgy the initiate unites with the gods through their sounds and, through entering the god's audible body, the Theurgist and Tantric initiate become that god in embodied form. Their orientation fundamentally shifts. They enter divine totalities. They assume divine power. And in both traditions, to enter this pulse of divine activity, the spanda of Tantra or the prudos, epistrophe of Theurgy, the initiate must first ascend to the divine cause and then descend, having become identified with the activity of the god. The crucial moment is the descent for it is in the emanation of great oneness into material diversity, that the soul truly enters the non-dual state, where discrete objects of this world, including our bodies and the senses that perceive them, are experienced as manifestations of the One. Gregory Shaw, Platonic Tantra, Theurgists of Late Antiquity.
Theurgic union with the eternal archetypes and forms are not an escape from the material world, but a way of drawing the vast agency of the infinite into a concretized vision of life. It is through the very modes of human expression that we draw the gods into the world by active participation with their perfecting natures. Through reflecting our divine infinite being and all its infinite manifest forms into art, culture, science, vocation, and every manifestation of sense and being, we become direct agents to the divine. It is the very nature of this relationship that creates the inseparable union with the Most High. For example, one of the gods central to our ritual praxis is Hermes. He is the divine messenger, the Logos, descending into the ritual chamber, merging with the Theurgist, opening the gates of the receptive divinatory experience. The vast agency of Hermes' gifts of prophecy carries with you outside into the world. When engaging our material existence, the inexhaustible flow of challenges and responsibilities are now framed with the divine inner power of knowing, this most precious gift of Hermes. Our days are filled with decisions, and Hermes incarnated in the Theurgist becomes the decision maker and operates from a deeper strata of understanding, giving one the ability to see through the course of conflict and action in a more realized way. This is just a simple example of how the embodiment of the gods, these eternal archetypes, change even the mundane activities of life. Through the tantric path, the Theurgist is able to best prepare for the invocations of the gods of Theurgy. As stated by Jung, the ego self-consciousness encounters the non-ego, the surrounding objective psyche, the collective unconscious, through the embodiment of the goddess centers of spherical union. Acting as Shiva, embracing the eternal energy of the material cosmos, through his consort Shakti, the Theurgist prepares his spherical boundary for the grand receptivity accomplished during Theurgic ritual. Through Tantra Kundalini, the Theurgist directly encounters the vibration of the divine identity, merging his awareness with the omnipresent conscious observer, Shiva, and through the lensing of space-time, the body of Shakti becomes acutely aware of the spherical boundary, a perfect mandala of transcendent experience. This is the preparation of the egg of eternity, the Orphic egg, from which Phanes, the firstborn, the Theurgist, emerges, reborn into the cosmic womb of eternal divine nature. Much more on this to come. The Multiverse Interpretation in Western Astrology, Gravity is Consciousness and the Solar Atman.
The coincidence between planetary positions and appropriate biographical and psychological phenomena was in general so precise and consistent as to make it altogether impossible for me to regard the intricate patterns as merely products of chance. Richard Theodore Tarnas, Cosmos and Psyche.
Richard Tarnas is a leading authority in the world of Jungian psychology, its applications to astrology, and the history of world events. As a cultural historian, he wrote the book Cosmos and Psyche, a revelatory work going back historically to review the planetary transits during major world events. We consider his work valuable to our school and recommend his teachings as an additional field of study for our students. His findings are striking and we highly recommend his work. But for our doctrine, we want to show astrology's relation to string theory and gravity as consciousness.
The Babylonians were the first to recognize that astronomical phenomena are periodic and apply mathematics to their predictions. Tablets dating back to the Old Babylonian period document the application of mathematics to the variation in the length of daylight over a solar year. Centuries of Babylonian observations of celestial phenomena were recorded in the series of cuneiform tablets. Wikipedia.
Astrology was born from the two most ancient cultures in known history, the Babylonians and the Egyptians. The Babylonians developed their earliest form of divination through omen practices, paying close attention to outer events for signs of future outcomes. Babylonian astrologers opened their awareness to intuitive and relevant data from planetary positions and synchronistic occurrences within their direct environment. Although there were many records of celestial phenomena, a striking set of cuneiform writings, named the Enuma Anu Enil, a series of 70 tablets, held between 6,500 and 7,000 Babylonian astrological omens, dating all the way back to the Old Period between 1595 BCE and 1157 BCE. There is also evidence of a protoform of these recordings as early as 1900 BCE. Babylonians had a very sophisticated system of omens, fate, divination, prediction, and early protoforms of theurgic ritual praxis, which became famed and integrated over the entire face of the ancient world. We cover this further below. Within the Enuma Anu Enil, there is a series of weather omens whose predictive power related to storm forecasting from the presence of thunder and lightning flashes in the sky in positions to the planetary spheres. This form of predictive early astrology was widely incorporated into the Greco-Roman world, especially in Alexandria, Egypt, under a divinatory genre termed brontologia, in Greek meaning thunder discourse. This technique was refined over time to include the moon and the zodiac, and a manual of its use was found amongst the Qumran communities of Hebrew theurgists in the Dead Sea Scrolls. In modern research, the attentive awareness to thunder and lightning patterns has uncovered surprising new theories that may greatly add to the validity of this form of divinatory practice. Schumann resonance refers to a set of low-frequency resonances or standing waves that occur in the Earth's ionosphere. These waves are a result of lightning strikes that create electromagnetic waves in the space between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. Named after physicist Winfried Otto Schumann, who predicted them mathematically in 1952. These resonances occur at frequencies of approximately 7.83 Hz. Somewhere in the world, at any given time, there are at least 200 or more lightning strikes, whose energetic evolution over time and its relation to the exact diameter of the Earth creates this Schumann resonance, which surrounds the entire planet in a consistent field. Dr. Michael A. Persinger, a cognitive neuroscientist, and Dr. Ervin Laszlo, a systems theorist and philosopher, both worked in this field, evidencing surprising results. Persinger proposed that the Earth's magnetic field, including phenomena like Schumann resonance, could influence brain activity and consciousness. He suggested that the frequency of Schumann resonance, around 7.83 Hz, closely matches the alpha waves in the human brain, which are associated with a relaxed, meditative state. This synchronization could potentially explain a deep connection between Earth's electromagnetic environment and human mental states. Laszlo's work extended into the realm of the Akashic field and suggests that Schumann resonance acts as a carrier wave for information exchange between all living beings, contributing to a global consciousness or collective mind. He theorized that the Earth's electromagnetic field might facilitate a non-local connection between individual consciousness and global or cosmic consciousness. The Journal of Consciousness Exploration and Research, a consortium of physicists, researchers, and other scientists, have further written extensively on the subject of Schumann resonance and human consciousness. It is the alpha wave frequency generated by Schumann's that is associated most directly with visionary states of consciousness, and theurgists enter alpha when engaging in the dynamics of ritual praxis. When one's brain waves resonate with the alpha state, we are quite literally on the same frequency as the lightning storms covering the Earth. Although just my own take, it would seem that this may be what has led to the inclination of the highest gods in many pantheons to be lightning and storm gods. The Hindu Indra, Greek Zeus, Roman Jupiter, Hittite Tarhun, Slavic Perun, Hebrew Yahweh, all heads of their pantheon as storm gods. And the list goes on into the lesser gods and demigods such as the Aztec Tlaloc, Norse Thor, and Japanese Raijin. These early Babylonian astrologers not only developed the geometric values of the planetary gods into the human condition of experience, but through heightened states of awareness and most assuredly the guiding principles of synchronicity and divination were highly tuned to the cosmic cycles of the universe. Eventually, after nearly 2,000 years of practicing omen divination and the meticulous keeping of planetary, lunar, and solar records, the Babylonian diviners created the system of the zodiac and birth charting we are more familiar with today. The Egyptians, another of our ancient cultures, developed rituals of divination around a star calendar of decans. Decans first appeared in the 10th dynasty, 2100 BCE. The sequence of these star patterns began with Solith or Cyrus, and each decan contained a set of stars and corresponding divinities. Both these ancient systems found their syncretism within the bustling of Alexandria, Egypt, during the age of the Alexandrian Library. These methods were fused with Greek and Roman symbolism, Platonism, and Pythagorean mathematics, starting in the 3rd millennium BCE. This is the very foundation of astrology and is still central to its current use today. We offer a full historical review of astrology on our website and YouTube channel for those interested. Astrology was fused into most Roman and Greek religious practices and philosophy during the Middle Roman period. It continued development in Western culture, adapting to different liturgy including Christian, Hebrew, and Islamic practices and beliefs. This ancient art and science stood the test of time through thousands of years of development. The use of astrology has survived every age, continually resurfacing, remaining a prominent part of culture globally over time. Traveling east, astrology was highly integrated into Hindu religions, and they have their own form of Hindu astrology. A study released by the National Science Foundation finds today nearly half of all Americans feel astrology is very or sort of scientific. Young adults are even more prone to believe, with 58% of 18 to 24-year-olds saying it is a science. Within the depth school lineage to Jung, there is today incredible work being done in the field of archetypal astrology. This has led to an academic revolution in the subject, fusing astrology with Jungian archetypes, a process begun by Jung himself in his later career. The world over, astrology has its opponents in both the religious and secular communities. Fundamental Christian communities especially find the practice to be anti-religious and even evil in nature. Those that oppose astrology usually have no experience with it, nor are they aware of the mountain of data that supports it. Also available on our website and YouTube channel is a compilation of real-to-life research on astrology. If you are a doubter, we highly recommend visiting our site and watching our proof of astrology videos. And I will tell you what I tell everyone: find a good astrologer, get your birth chart done, and dutifully follow your planetary transits for 6 months. Most everyone that has taken the amount of focus and time to investigate astrology is a convert. Astrology speaks to the teleology of meaning and purpose in one's life. The only way to decide for yourself is to engage in it directly.
The whole heavens are, indeed, more valuable than this earth, both as being nobler, and more ancient, and more divine, as being more extended, and more full of intellect, and as being the causes of everything. For the planets, and those divine souls which are established in them, fill the whole world with their numbers, and bind everything in a beautiful order. Proclus. Commentary on the Timaeus.
The Multiverse Interpretation perfectly explains why the divinatory art of astrology has a modern scientific foundation. If our solar system is the causal diamond whose past history world line is our future, then accessing this greater realm would bring one in touch with all possible futures, already existing in its branch causal diamond history. The sun's gravity accelerates the planets around its orbit, and if gravity is consciousness, then their relationship to each other, the solar center, and the surrounding heliosphere would hold reference to knowledge of future events radiating in from every point of the heliosphere. The solar system began forming about 4.6 billion years ago from a giant molecular cloud. The collapse of this cloud likely triggered a nearby supernova and formed a rotating disk of gas and dust known as the protoplanetary disk. For the majority of their existence, approximately 4.5 billion years, the planets have been in their current general positions. Their forms, such as the terrestrial planet's solid surfaces and the gas giant's thick atmospheres, were largely established early in the solar system's history and have remained relatively consistent. Every one of the planetary spheres is larger than us, and many of them larger than the Earth. The causal diamond dimensions of their existing presence in the solar system have existed in the branch history world line of the solar system for billions of years. Their gravitational force, like that of the Earth, if gravity is consciousness, would be as gods to us standing here on Earth, containing infinitely larger dimensions of being within the total solar branch history world line of the entire solar system. The planets in their motions find geometrical relationships that were followed, recorded, and analyzed by the early Babylonian astrologers when humans were much more in touch with the night sky. These were recorded, compared, and expounded upon over generations, starting with the first of these charts in 1900 BCE, as we have previously explained. Through the recording of these geometric calculations and the seasonal positions of the Earth from the Sun, the divinatory power of the greater causal diamond solar system gave these early protagonists a system of intuitive knowledge relative to the gravitational influence that the planetary spheres hold within its solar body, the solar Atman.
The sun always exists, so there is no rising nor setting for him. The thousand-eyed and thousand-rayed sun god is the manifester of time. He is the diadem of Svarloka, and the zodiac is his Atman. Devi Bhagavata.
In this quote from the Devi Bhagavata, the sun is described as the diadem of Svarloka, or the jeweled crown of heaven. Both in India and in the Western world, the sun is central to the practice of astrology. The zodiac is his Atman, which exists within the causal diamond of the solar system's influence, terminating at the heliosphere just past Pluto. This is a two-dimensional spherical plane which we have begun introducing you to and will explain much better in following chapters. In Western astrology, the zodiac evolved over time to be recognized as a solar seasonal influence related to the solar system directly and not the exact positions of the stars in the sky. It was first compiled in Alexandria, Egypt between 332 and 30 BCE, when the zodiac signs existed in a straight line to their constellations. But now these stars have shifted. The divine intelligences, these planetary archetypes, and the 12 signs of the zodiac as they procession through the year are an inner solar system seasonal manifestation of the cosmos. This is the tropical system of the zodiac as opposed to the Eastern Hindu sidereal, which shifted with the constellations themselves. We feel the value of the tropical system over sidereal was revealed even in the East, with the recognition in the Devi Bhagavata of the zodiac being the sun's Atman. This is supported by string theory cosmology, which we will get into shortly. This has been one of the controversies of the detractors to the astrological sciences, saying that it must be invalid as the stars in their positions to the Earth have shifted.
Decoherence cannot occur in the complete quantum description of any region larger than the future light cone of the measurement event. Leonard Susskind.
The Western astrological framework is based on the Sun and our place within its solar influence. It is the Sun and its relationship to Earth and its other planetary bodies that we most directly mirror as a microcosm. Our causal diamond world line is within the Earth's causal diamond world line, which in turn is within the solar system's world line. The ancient astrologers' intuitive calculations of the zodiac's relationship to events and experiences on Earth are actually that of the sun's seasonal positioning through the calendar year. As Susskind explains, decoherence cannot occur in the complete quantum description of any region larger than the future light cone of the measurement event. We exist within the decoherent causal diamond history of the solar system, which in the macro calculation is the measurement event, and its light cone terminates just past the orbit of Pluto. This may seem picky, but it is vital in understanding that the system of astrology followed by our school is the tropical Western system as it relates to the solar and seasonal influence of the sun.
Nothing is more important to us on Earth than the sun. Without the sun's heat and light, the Earth would be a lifeless ball of ice-coated rock. The sun warms our seas, stirs our atmosphere, generates our weather patterns, and gives energy to the growing green plants that provide the food and oxygen for life on Earth. History. NASA.gov.
The Sun makes up 99.8% of all the mass in our solar system. You can take Mars, Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and both asteroid belts, add them all together, and they only constitute 0.2%. In many ways, there is nothing but the Sun, and we are simply a product of its existence. If gravity is the carrier of consciousness, then the consciousness of the Sun comprises 99.8% of the great intellect of the solar system. This is the solar logos. As explained, the solar system's gravity, being consciousness, makes the study of transits and intuitive science of astrology practical. We are enveloped within the gravitational body of the Sun and the space-time curvature in the solar system, which whirls the planets in their orbits, representing both the physical and psychic activity of its solar being, its Atman. And as the Thelemic Magus and my good friend Annabel Alvarez says, astrology is data, intuitive in nature and mathematical in structure. Ages advance and change, but it is not an evolution of hierarchy through time, but one of change in form. The form adopted by these ancient Babylonian astrologers was just as beautiful, valid, and significant as the forms we take in today's age of scientific and technological advancements. Today, we capture data on computers and have AI engines process and interpret this into useful information. In ancient Babylon, they accessed the great cosmic computer of the solar Atman, interpreting the geometric calculations of meaning and significance in the science of divination, providence, and fate.